A billionaire CEO storms into a flower shop owned by a black woman, destroying everything in sight. But when he discovers that this same woman once saved his mother's life, what happens next is beyond belief. Victor Kane's mornings were a ritual of power. The penthouse curtains opened automatically to reveal Atlanta's skyline, steel towers glinting like trophies of conquest. His assistants lined up his schedule: board meetings, acquisitions, negotiations. Every moment was calculated, every word sharpened like a blade. To the world, Victor was untouchable, a billionaire CEO, feared for his ruthless tactics and infamous temper. But behind the polished exterior, Victor carried a silent wound. His mother, the only person who had ever softened his hardened heart, was battling a chronic illness. The sterile hospital visits left him feeling powerless, a sensation he despised. He buried that vulnerability beneath layers of aggression, lashing out at anyone who dared cross him. Just blocks away, Clara Johnson's mornings looked very different. At Bloom and Grace, her modest flower shop, she swept the floors herself, humming gospel tunes as sunlight filtered through the dusty windows. Clara was in her 40s, resilient, and deeply rooted in her community. Her shop wasn't just about selling flowers, it was about healing. She hired local teens to keep them off the streets, donated bouquets to grieving families, and brought arrangements to hospital patients who couldn't afford them. Her life was far from easy. Rising rents threatened her business, and every month was a battle to keep the doors open. Yet Clara's spirit remained unbroken. Each bouquet she tied was a prayer, a symbol of hope blooming against hardship. Customers often said, "Clara doesn't just sell flowers, she sells comfort." The collision of their worlds came suddenly. After a failed corporate deal, Victor stormed into Clara's shop, enraged by a property dispute. His fury was volcanic. He swept vases off counters, crushed delicate petals underfoot, and left the shop in ruins. The community watched in horror as their sanctuary was violated. Clara stood frozen, her livelihood destroyed in minutes. But instead of screaming or retaliating, Clara simply whispered, "God bless you," her voice trembling yet dignified. That quiet strength unsettled Victor more than any confrontation could. This was the inciting incident, the moment that set into motion a story of rage, revelation, and redemption. The day after Victor's destructive outburst, Clara returned to Bloom and Grace. The shop smelled faintly of crushed roses and broken stems. She swept the floor quietly, her hands trembling, but her spirit unbowed. Neighbors stopped by, offering words of comfort, but Clara insisted she would rebuild. Victor, meanwhile, sat in his office, staring at the city skyline. His rage had subsided, leaving only guilt. He replayed Clara's whispered words, "God bless you," over and over. Why hadn't she cursed him? Why hadn't she fought back? That dignity unsettled him. Against his instincts, Victor ordered his driver to take him back to the flower shop. When he arrived, Clara was arranging salvaged blooms into a small vase. She looked up, startled, but did not flinch. Victor cleared his throat awkwardly. "I came to apologize." His voice was stiff and used to humility. Clara studied him for a moment, then simply said, "Flowers can be destroyed, but kindness cannot." That sentence pierced Victor. For the first time in years, he felt small, not because of failure, but because of truth. Victor noticed a teenage boy sweeping outside the shop. Clara explained, "That's Jamal. He helps me after school. Keeps him busy, keeps him safe." Victor frowned, realizing Clara wasn't just running a shop, she was holding together a community. On impulse, Victor pulled out his wallet and handed Jamal a crisp $100 bill. "For your work," he said gruffly. Jamal's eyes widened, but Clara gently placed her hand over the boy's. "Say thank you, but remember, money is fleeting. Character lasts." Victor was taken aback. Clara wasn't impressed by his wealth. She valued dignity over dollars. That humility stirred something in him. As he turned to leave, Clara offered him a single white lily. "For your mother," she said softly. Victor froze. "How do you know about her?" Clara smiled faintly. "I've seen her at the hospital. I brought flowers once. She reminded me of my own mother." Victor's chest tightened. He remembered his mother clutching a bouquet during one of her hardest treatments. Could it have been Clara's gift? Victor left the shop shaken. For years, he had believed kindness was weakness. Yet here was a woman who had lost everything: her shop, her livelihood, and still chose compassion. That night, Victor visited his mother. She smiled weakly, holding a faded photo of herself with a bouquet of lilies. "A kind lady brought these to me once," she whispered. "It gave me strength." Victor's heart sank. Clara had been there all along, offering comfort when he couldn't. The realization cracked his armor. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Victor returned to Bloom and Grace more often than he expected. At first, he told himself it was business damage control for his reputation. But each visit chipped away at his defenses. He watched Clara rebuild with quiet determination, salvaging broken vases, replanting flowers, and encouraging the teens who worked for her. One afternoon, Victor offered to pay for repairs. Clara hesitated. "I don't want charity," she said firmly. "But if you want to help, hire Jamal for an internship. Show him what the world looks like beyond these streets." Victor was stunned. Clara didn't ask for herself, she asked for her community. Against his instincts, he agreed. Jamal's eyes lit up, and for the first time, Victor felt the weight of responsibility, not as a burden, but as a chance to change a life. Days turned into weeks. Victor began to linger at the shop, watching Clara interact with customers. She remembered birthdays, comforted widows, and celebrated graduations with bouquets. Her kindness was relentless, and Victor found himself drawn to it. Clara, in turn, saw glimpses of humanity in Victor: moments when he laughed with Jamal or softened when speaking about his mother. The community noticed. Some were skeptical, whispering that Victor was only there to buy forgiveness. Others saw hope, believing that even the hardest hearts could change. Clara remained cautious but open, teaching Victor that trust was earned, not bought. Just as bonds were forming, a legal notice arrived. The property housing Bloom and Grace was slated for redevelopment, ironically, by Victor's own corporation. The shop would be demolished within months. Clara's face fell as she read the letter. "So this is what your kindness was worth?" she asked bitterly. Victor was torn. On one hand, the project promised millions in profit. On the other, demolishing Clara's shop would erase the very place that had begun to heal him. His board pressured him to proceed, warning that backing out would signal weakness. Clara withdrew, hurt and disillusioned. "I should have known better," she whispered. Jamal stopped showing up at Victor's office, and the community braced for loss. Victor faced sleepless nights, pacing his penthouse. His mother's words echoed, "Kindness is strength, Victor. Don't forget that." He realized the choice before him wasn't about profit, it was about redemption. Victor visited Clara one evening. The shop was dim, half empty, as if preparing for its funeral. "I don't want to lose this place," Clara admitted, her voice breaking. "It's not just a shop, it's home for so many." Victor's chest tightened. For the first time, He understood the stakes. Saving Bloom and Grace wasn't just about Clara, it was about saving himself. Have you ever had to overcome obstacles to help someone you cared about? What challenges did you face? Share your experience below. I'd love to hear how you pushed through. Victor stood at a crossroads. His board demanded progress on the redevelopment project, but his conscience screamed otherwise. For the first time in his career, he defied them. "We're not demolishing Bloom and Grace," he declared in a tense meeting. Gasps filled the room. Investors threatened to pull out. Colleagues whispered about weakness. But Victor held firm. Instead, he proposed something radical. Bloom and Grace would not only remain, it would expand. He pledged company funds to restore the shop, create a community garden, and establish scholarships for local teens. His executives balked, but Victor's resolve was unshakable. Clara was stunned when Victor returned with blueprints, not bulldozers. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice wary. Victor's answer was simple: "Because kindness saved my mother's life. And now, it's saving mine." The community rallied. Volunteers painted walls, teens planted flowers, and neighbors donated supplies. Victor, once feared, now worked side by side with Clara, his suit jacket replaced by rolled-up sleeves. Slowly, trust began to bloom. Months later, Bloom and Grace reopened not as a small shop, but as a thriving community hub. The once modest storefront now featured a garden where children played, benches where elders gathered, and classrooms where teens learned business skills. Clara's vision had grown beyond her imagination, fueled by Victor's redemption. At the grand reopening, Clara stood before the crowd, tears in her eyes. "This shop was built on hope," she said, "and today it stands as proof that kindness can heal even the deepest wounds." Victor's mother, frail but smiling, attended the ceremony. She embraced Clara, whispering, "You gave me strength when I had none." "Thank you." Victor watched, his heart full. For the first time, he felt fulfilled not by profit, but by purpose. The story came full circle when Clara, now thriving, began helping others in the same way she once helped Victor's mother. She donated flowers to hospitals across Atlanta, trained young entrepreneurs, and offered free counseling sessions in her shop. Victor, too, changed. He redirected his company's resources toward community projects, proving that even billionaires could be transformed by compassion. Together, Clara and Victor showed that one act of kindness could ripple outward, touching countless lives. The crowd cheered as Clara handed Victor a bouquet of lilies, the same flowers she once gave his mother. "This time," she said, smiling, "they're for you, to remind you that kindness is strength." Victor accepted them, his eyes glistening. The man who once destroyed her shop now stood as its protector. The transformation was complete. This story shows how one act of kindness can change everything. What's one way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your commitment. In the comments, I'd love to see how kindness spreads. Months after the grand reopening, Bloom and Grace had become more than a flower shop. It was a symbol of resilience. Clara continued to nurture her community, expanding her programs to include mentorship for young women and workshops on entrepreneurship. Jamal, once sweeping floors, now thrived as an intern in Victor's company, learning skills that would shape his future. Victor's transformation was equally profound. His corporation, once notorious for ruthless acquisitions, began funding community projects across Atlanta. He established a foundation in his mother's honor, dedicated to supporting small businesses run by women and minorities. His mother, though still frail, lived to see her son embrace compassion over conquest. The unlikely partnership between Clara and Victor became a local legend. Newspapers wrote about it. Schools taught it as a lesson in empathy. and families visited bloom and grace not just for flowers, but for inspiration. This story reminds us that kindness is not weakness, it is strength. Clara's quiet dignity in the face of destruction sparked a chain of events that transformed a billionaire, revived a community, and gave hope to countless lives. Victor's redemption proves that no one is beyond change, and Clara's resilience shows that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple outward, touching hearts we may never know. At its core, this is about universal values: family, compassion, forgiveness, and the courage to choose love over anger. It's about remembering that every bouquet, every smile, every gentle word has the power to heal. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Share your commitment in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world.